Now, in this video, we're going to consider, do we have a closed mind? Now, when it comes to looking at the evidence which we're going to look at, there are some people that have got open minds and some people that have got closed minds. And people often get an open mind and a closed mind confused with being biased. Okay, so being biased, what that means is this. It's like someone might say to me, Julian, you believe all that stuff because you're biased. You know, you naturally believe it. That's where your bias is. Of course you'd say Jesus really rose from the dead. You're a Christian, you're biased. And so people say that, and they would say that about me, and so that it kind of justifies them not believing. Oh, he doesn't believe it because it's true, but because he's biased. Well, here's the thing, everyone is biased. You perhaps are biased against it, and others are biased for it. And you would be right to accuse me of being biased. I am biased. But here's the thing, I have an open mind. And in fact, I have always had an open mind by the grace of God. I've always had an open mind. So that, here's the truth. Once, I was biased against Christianity. I wasn't brought up as a Christian. My mum and dad weren't Christians. None of my family were Christians. And so I believe that, you know, maybe there's a God up there, but I didn't have any regard for him whatsoever. But as I began to find out about it, I became absolutely persuaded, as I looked at the evidence, that it was true. I had an open mind, and although I was biased against it, because I had an open mind, I was persuaded and my mind was changed, so that my bias was changed. And I've still got an open mind, and if people show me evidence, then my bias will be changed again, because I've got an open mind. So I want to encourage you, have an open mind. It's okay being biased, but allow yourself to be led by the evidence wherever it leads. Follow it wherever it goes. You see, if you've got a closed mind, you can't do that. You know, here's how a closed mind works. A closed mind says, there's no such thing as God, therefore there's no such thing as resurrections. Now that means this. Even if someone sees someone raised from the dead, they will say, oh no, that wasn't a resurrection because resurrections don't happen. That must have been some kind of trickery. No matter what the evidence suggests, it will always be interpreted in another way because you've closed your mind. It's a bit like, I can illustrate it like this, the man who thought he was dead. Okay? He wakes up in the morning and he comes downstairs and he says to his family, wife and children, you're not going to believe this. I'm dead. I died in the night. And they look at him and they say, have you gone crazy? And he says, no, I've died. I'm dead. And they think he's joking at first, but it becomes quite clear he really does believe, he's persuaded, he's convinced he's dead. And so they try and reason with him, but he just won't have it. And so in the end they say, look, you need to go to the doctors. Go and speak to the doctor. You trust the doctor, don't you? And he says, yeah. So the wife says, go and speak to the doctor and see what he says. So the man goes and he visits the doctor. He sits down in front of the doctor's the other side. The doctor says to him, what's the problem? The man says, I'm dead. The doctor says, don't be ridiculous. You're not dead, you're alive. You're talking to me. The man says, you don't understand. I am dead. And so the doctor tries to persuade him that he's not dead, but he's alive. But the man just won't have it. In the end, the doctor says to him, well, look, you know this, don't you? That dead people don't bleed. And the man says, that's right, I know dead people don't bleed. The heart's not pumping, so it's not pumping the blood round. The blood's congealed in the body, so if you cut a person, they don't bleed. The doctor says, that's absolutely correct. That means, sir, if you bleed, if I was to cut you, you know that you're alive, right? And the man says, yeah, if you cut me, of course I'm not going to bleed, because I'm dead. And so the doctor says, well, let me take a pin and prick the end of your finger. So he says, sure, you can, but no blood's going to come out, and then you're going to see that I'm dead. So the doctor gets a pin, pricks the end of the man's finger. The man looks at his finger. The doctor looks at the finger. There's blood coming out. The man looks at the finger, looks at the doctor and says, I don't believe it. Dead people do bleed. And that illustrates a closed mind. No matter what you do or say, they will never believe because their minds are already closed. Now, if you're going to have a chance of finding out if this is all really true, you've got to have an open mind. You can be biased by all means. So maybe you've got doubts or you think, oh, it's a load of rubbish. That's okay. But have an open mind, and as you learn, allow the evidence to lead you wherever it takes you. Don't be like the man who thought that he was dead.